This is not a made-up story. And it's not internet exaggeration either. Everything you're about to hear is based on one of the most shocking real bank breaches in European history, a case that actually happened in France during the 1970s. No fantasy, no fiction, just a man who noticed something everyone else ignored and used it to change what secure really means. And what he did inside that vault didn't just break a system, it embarrassed an entire country. But to understand how it happened, you first need to understand the man they all underestimated. On the surface, he looked harmless, a quiet portrait photographer in southern France.
Ready? Right. Perfect, here we go. Let's see how this one turned out.
Soft voice, regular customers, a small studio, ordinary life. His name was Albert Spaggiari, and ordinary was never the truth about him. Long before cameras and wedding photos, he had lived other lives: soldier, prisoner, rebel, a man who had seen enough of authority to stop believing in it. People in his town saw a polite businessman who talked about light, angles, and family portraits.
What sort of pricing are we looking at for that?
Let me check our rate sheet for you.
But they never saw what he did after closing his shop. Because every night, when the streets of Nice went quiet, he wasn't going home to rest. He was walking, not randomly, not for leisure. He was studying something buried beneath the city itself. Old maps, forgotten tunnels, underground routes that most people didn't even know existed anymore. And slowly, a question formed in his mind that would eventually lead to one of the most calculated breaches in banking history. What if the strongest place in the city is only strong from above? That question didn't leave him. It grew, and soon it stopped being curiosity. It became a plan. But what he discovered under the city wasn't the most dangerous part. It was how close it was to something everyone thought was untouchable, and that realization changes everything. In the heart of Nice stood a bank that locals considered untouchable, not just secure, impossible. Behind thick stone walls and armored systems sat a vault filled with thousands of private deposit boxes. Inside them were not just money, but secrets, gold that had never been declared, documents that could destroy reputations, fortunes hidden from governments, families, and history itself. The system was built on one belief: if you can't reach it, you can't steal it. Massive steel doors, timed locks, guard rotations, cameras everywhere. And yet, there was one detail nobody questioned. The vault was protected from the outside, but not from below. Spaggiari didn't look at the door, he looked at the ground, because beneath the bank, beneath the city, ran an old underground sewer system. And somewhere in that forgotten network was something impossible, a point dangerously close to the vault floor. Just a few meters of earth separated chaos from silence. That was all. So while the bank counted locks and cameras, Spaggiari was counting meters. And when he finished calculating, he didn't see a bank anymore. He saw a target waiting for gravity to fail. But what he planned next required more than intelligence. It required patience most people don't have, and that's where the real operation began. Before anything happened, he needed time and silence. Spaggiari built his plan in the only place no one looked: below the surface. Night after night, small teams entered the sewer system of Nice. Not criminals at first glance. Engineers, mechanics, former soldiers, men who understood pressure, noise, and darkness. They didn't start digging immediately. They studied. They mapped every turn, every pipe, every vibration from the city above. Then came the real work, digging through wet stone, carrying debris by hand, moving in silence through waste-filled tunnels where even breathing felt heavy. One mistake would end everything, so they worked like ghosts. No power tools that could be heard above, no movement that could leave traces, no conversations that carried too far. Hours turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, until finally they reached it, the final barrier, just a thin layer of reinforced material separating them from the vault floor above. The moment they broke through, everything changed, because now they weren't under the city anymore. They were under the bank, and that meant one thing: they were inside the system without ever entering the front door. But even then, the hardest part hadn't started yet, because timing the next move meant trusting something even more dangerous than planning: luck. And luck never stays loyal for long. The break-in happened during a long holiday weekend. The perfect window. The bank would stay closed for days. No staff, no interruptions, no early discovery. When the final barrier gave way, they entered the vault from below, not through a door, through the floor. What they saw above them was surreal. Rows of locked boxes stretching into the darkness. Thousands of secrets stacked in metal silence. They didn't rush. They organized. Tools were set, roles assigned, time measured. And then they began opening boxes one by one, not randomly, systematically. Inside were valuables, documents, gold, and private deposits belonging to some of the wealthiest people in the region. But something unusual happened inside that vault. They didn't behave like panic-driven thieves. They behaved like operators inside a system they had already mentally defeated. Even more shocking, they paused, they ate, they rested, they treated the vault like a temporary workspace rather than a crime scene. Then came the turning point. A message was left behind. Not threatening, not chaotic, but deliberate, almost symbolic. A statement meant for whoever discovered it later, because this was never just about stealing. It was about proving something, that no system is as absolute as it claims. And once they were done, they didn't escape through the front. They disappeared back into the same underground world they came from. No alarms triggered, no immediate suspects, no clear direction of exit, just silence and a vault that no longer held what it used to. But the real shock wasn't the break-in. It was what happened after the discovery, because the man behind it was about to do something no one expected. At first, the investigation had no direction, no forced entry from above, no obvious suspect list, no clean explanation. It looked like the vault had simply opened itself to the wrong people. Then slowly, fragments began to surface. A name, then another, then a pattern, and finally, Albert Spaggiari. When authorities caught up to him, they expected silence. Instead, they got calm. He didn't deny much. He didn't panic. He didn't betray others. He spoke like someone who had already left mentally. But what followed next shocked everyone more than the crime itself.
Where were you on the night of the 13th? The map in the bag. Tell us about it.
During questioning, he made a move that no one anticipated. He escaped, not through force, not through violence, through timing, a brief opening, a calculated moment, a leap from a window, a getaway already waiting below. And just like that, he was gone. For years after, he lived under false identities, moving quietly across continents, always one step ahead of pursuit, never returning the money, never revealing all names, never fully explaining everything, just silence, and eventually disappearance from history itself. But the impact remained, because what he proved inside that bank changed how security experts think even today. It wasn't about stronger doors. It was about blind spots no one bothers to measure. And sometimes, the most secure systems fail for the simplest reason: no one expected someone to look underneath. To this day, most of what was taken from that vault was never recovered. But the real loss wasn't just money, it was confidence. Because after that incident, one question stayed in every security meeting in Europe. If someone can plan for years without being noticed, what else are we missing right now? And the answer, nobody wants to hear it.